Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I felt fortunate to be given a general debate spot today by the Honourable Jerry Brownlee, especially in relation to the announcement that was made today by the Prime Minister in relation to what we are planning or looking at doing to help with the threat that ISIL presents, not just in the Middle East, but a growing global threat. And there's just a few facts that I wanted to just remind everyone in the House, because I have listened to the contribution. It's good to see that there is general support and consensus around what our Prime Minister is doing. Iraq is a sovereign country. So I was lucky enough to be there and help deliver the first elections after the topple of Saddam Hussein. And it is a sovereign country. It does have a democracy, and they have voted in a democratically elected government. They've asked for help because they're having a tough time of it there at the moment. They've got a terror group that has grown, that is operating across two borders. They're well organised, they're well resourced. Never before have we seen them having access to the type of funds that they currently have access to. The Honourable Jerry Brownlee made a very good point that they aren't just operating in the Middle East, they're operating in places like Somalia and Yemen and Nigeria, and their tactics are changing. And the one thing that I was very pleased and relieved as a member of the National Caucus was to see how carefully our leadership group is approaching this. And I don't feel that we could have any stronger team that's leading our country into this than our Prime Minister, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee, Minister of Defence, the Honourable Murray McCully, our Foreign Affairs Minister, and probably at the moment in this country, in fact he would be in this country, the one person that's got more knowledge than anyone in terms of what is happening globally with the work that he's been put into and the fantastic result that he and his team delivered in us securing a seat on the United Nations Security Council. And of course, Chris Finlayson, one of the top legal minds, or the top legal mind in the country in terms of making sure that we remain compliant. I was lucky enough back in 2002-2003 to be responsible for overseeing the training of the newly formed security forces inside Iraq, which included the Iraq Police Service, the Iraq National Guard, the Facility Protection Service, the Border and Customs Police, and the Tactical Support Unit. And one thing that, and as part of that role, I oversaw the training that was delivered by Kiwis, Brits, and also Americans. And I can tell you now that it made a huge fundamental difference in the way that the Iraqi security services were able to deploy and operate. And so I was very pleased to hear that the Prime Minister is considering this as an option for us to make a contribution, because it would make a real, tangible contribution to helping Iraq out in their struggle against ISIL. I just want to acknowledge the Peshmerga fighters that are really taking the fight to ISIL at the moment. I was lucky enough to work with them also. They're certainly a group that aren't short on courage, and they're passionate about their homeland, and they're showing that they're putting up a stiff resistance. And the Iraqi forces as well, who are doing the best that they can under the situation that they have to, or the environment that they have to operate in. And just a little bit about that environment, some of the risks that they face, is that when I was there, we don't hear about it, we don't really talk about it too much, but you have to remember that, and I think the Prime Minister alluded today, is a big part of how these terror groups operate is through kidnapping. And actually members of the armed forces' families are targeted. And that of course puts them in a very difficult situation, because what would any of us do when we're faced with a situation where our family, our children or our wife has been taken, and there's demands put on you in terms of whether or not you'll actually turn up the next day and deploy with your colleagues. So this is one of the challenges that they really face. In terms of their tactics, and I think David Shearer made a very good point, and the Prime Minister backed it up, is that we're not being alarmist. No one wants to be alarmist. Every single night we go to bed, and probably most of us are unaware that the police service is out there dealing with all types of crimes that we'll never see, that will never touch us, but are happening, but they are trained and they understand how to deal with it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.